Welcome back to the channel and week 5 of the Road to Valencia Marathon series. Stay tuned to see how I got on with just 5 weeks to go now until the big day at Valencia, with a full week of training and no races to get in the way. So as has been typical of my routine in the past month, I started Monday this week with a double day. So Mondays I like to take nice and easy. Now I'm doing sort of a race or a hard session on my Sunday within my long run. So I try and split this up into 2 runs so that I can still get a decent amount of mileage in, but it's not too taxing on my body. Got a bit of time for recovery. So I did about 3.5 miles in the morning, and then 7 to 8 in the evening. I ran with Robbie in the evening. So Tuesday was session day, and as was the case last week, I did this on the bypass near my house, as I thought didn't want to risk the travel, getting stuck in traffic across town to go and get a track session in at the track. So it's nice and easy just to get out the door and go and do it. So with last week doing 16 by 400s, this week was similar. I did 12 by 600s, so a little bit more volume in there, and a little bit longer rep. And my target was to try and hit somewhere around that 6 to 6:15 pace per mile. So for me, that's working at probably like 5 or 10k pace. As it was, I ended up working at probably about 10k effort for these. So I was doing these reps at around 6:20 per mile, which just works out for about 39ish for 10k. So a good little session there on Tuesday. Not the best of paces, probably would have done a bit quicker at the track, but I compromised on not having to travel there, being stuck in the car for about an hour. Wednesday was more of a recovery day for me, but similar to last week, tried to get in 9+ miles if I could. So as I'm having that trade-off between wanting to recover and wanting to hit some decent sessions on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, but also want to get the miles in for marathon training. So at the moment I am compromising a little bit, running those sessions on slightly tired legs, but the extra mileage is going to benefit me come Valencia Marathon. So it was about 9.5 miles on Wednesday. I ran about half of that with Robbie. It was nice to have some company on probably my first dark night of running. Now the clocks have gone back, so it was good to get out, good to get 9.5 miles done. And then into Thursday with my second session of the week. So it's been a good week so far, hitting those sessions. And in the morning before work, I opted to do a progression run on my treadmill. So this was around 7 to 8 miles in total. Had a slight bit of a warm-up and a little bit of a cool down afterwards. I'm having a job of converting all the speeds and measurements on my treadmill at the moment, with not really using one, and it all being in kilometres and kilometres an hour. So I basically started at about 8-minute miling, which was 12 kilometres an hour, and then upped this at every kilometre when it kicked in. So I was getting gradually quicker from 5 minutes down to a 4-minute kilometre and under by the end. So every sort of 5 minutes to 4 minutes at the end was getting quicker and was increasing that. And to be honest, that's probably one of the most enjoyable sessions I can do really on a treadmill, that by just having that progression, constantly having that different stimulus, that you are getting slightly faster each time, breaks it up a bit more than just doing a steady run at the same pace. And I don't really like doing intervals on a treadmill that you're blasting away for say 2 or 3 minutes and then recovering on the side. It's never quite the same, so I'll always try and keep my short intervals outside when I can. The other advantage of the progression run is that I'm not really overtraining too much by doing that. So when I say it's my second session of a week, it's not as hard session and intense on my body as doing those shorter intervals, as I'm not running quite as fast. It's more like a tempo pace I'm running at, and I'm only really doing that tempo pace for the last half of the run really. So it was only really about 5 to 6k that I was running at that sort of 6:30, 6:40 pace, which would be sort of pushing me and fatiguing me. So it should keep my legs fairly fresh going into the weekend, but I can have a good session, possibly even have a little go around Parkrun as well on Saturday. And on to tonight, Friday night, so finish the working week and I'm out for an easy run. So having done that session of the progression yesterday, just keeping it nice and easy, probably gonna get somewhere between 6 and 8 miles in. Not really too fussed on the distance, not even looked at the pace. I can really notice that the nights are drawing in a bit now, as I did get out quite sharpish at about 20 past 4 tonight after work, and it's already sort of drawing in a bit. I can see the moon up in front. It's a bit dark, so yeah, I think we've got a long winter ahead of us for the next 3 or 4 months.
So Saturday was Parkrun day and we were at Wollaton Hall Parkrun over in Nottingham. So this is us just going off the start line with Emma and Lola, and the first section was a little bit crowded but on tarmac, but up a slight hill going out here. So fine for Lola and Emma, but a little bit of a drag for me, as you can see in the distance. We then carried on up that hill and took a right and heading towards Wollaton Hall here. So this sharp right back on ourselves then took us over towards the hall. And that is the majestic Wollaton Hall, which we'll see on the way back as well. Fun fact about this, it was actually used as Wayne Manor in the Batman series, The Dark Knight. And this is the last of the tarmac section of the mile, as we head downhill towards a little bit of a road section with the woods. So it forms a lap of the lake just up here. And on this section had a bit of grass, so for me a little bit of a slip hazard here down that lake with oh, there we go. Slip. You go round the lake. So Emma and Lola just looking where we would get into distance here. And then the last contact I had with them was they got a bit bored waiting for me at 6:35, 6:40. I wasn't really going. And then back onto tarmac path, which is always good. I don't like really much better. And then back up towards Wollaton Hall. Really bit of a bit. It's a bit of a traffic flow. So this section is actually on the Robin Hood half marathon route, about 6 miles in. Always a tough section of that. And back on a little bit of downhill now, my favourite. So running down the hill, and we'll take a left, and this left will take us back onto the home straight and into the finish. Still quite a bit of a drag to get to the finish though from here. So yeah, closing into the last, say, 200 metres or so. So you'll see the cones for the finish start to come up in the distance. I was really trying to put as much in so I wasn't as far over 20 minutes as I thought I'd be on this run. Coming into the finish now, I'll have Emma and Lola, who are getting a bit cold, waiting for me. And around 20:35 I think was my time this morning, so not too bad of an effort on a little bit of a difficult course.
Thank you. Hello, sausage.
Is it you, Daddy?
Lola had a good morning out and met her twin, so 6-year-old Clover, just like Lola.
Wait. Oh, we're so close. It's now Sunday and it's absolutely glorious here about midday at Albert Village Lake. So I'm doing my long run session today, and what's on the cards is a 1 mile warm up. I'm doing 4 miles at marathon pace, then 2 lots of 3 miles and 2 lots of 2 miles. So between each of the efforts, I'm going to have a mile of jogging in between, and it should be somewhere around the 20 to 22 mile mark. So at marathon pace I'm looking for is somewhere around 6:45 to 6:50. So I'm going to go more of a top end at 6:50 for the first rep, but I'm going to bring it down and try to get a bit quicker on the 3s and the 2s. That's rep 1 finished now, so the 4 mile rep I averaged 6:48 for this one, so bang on where I wanted to be. In terms of fueling, I've been using a Precision Hydration 90 gram pouch, and I've had about 50 grams of that, which is good going just 5 miles into my run. As always, the test for me in fueling is to get as much on as I can to give my muscles enough energy to keep performing, not get fatigued. And when they get fatigued, that's when it causes bad form. You start to slow down and you start picking up a few niggles. So really keeping on top of the fueling give me the best chance on race day to train my stomach, make sure that I can take those gels on board and use that energy in the race. So next rep I've got is the 3 mile rep, and we're looking at increasing the pace slightly, so 6:45 and below is a target for these 2 3 mile reps. So that's the 3 mile rep done now. So I've done a 4 mile rep and a 3 mile rep, and the times were 6:48 per mile on the 4 mile and then 6:45 just on the 3 mile. So trying to hit the same sort of pace, that's going to work out at kind of 2:56.7 kind of pace for the marathon, which would be a good effort for me for Valencia. And to be honest, I'm feeling pretty good at this, so now's a chance to try and get a little bit quicker on the second 3 mile rep, and then try and drop that pace a little bit more on the 2 lots of 2 mile reps towards the end. In terms of fueling, I've had 90 grams of carbs already in 9 to 10 miles of running, so that's really not too far over an hour. So it's a good volume of carbs I've been getting in. I'm going to take some more on probably towards the end of the next 3 miles, and then on the 2 lots of 2 miles. Really want to be practicing taking these carbs whilst I'm at race pace. So that's the second lot of 3 miles done, and felt that one a little bit more than the previous 2. So it was a bit quicker, 6:42, 6:41 in the end. But I don't know whether I'm going to be able to keep increasing this for the 2 miles. I've done 10 miles at marathon pace now. It's quite a lot in the session, and just for 2 lots of 2 miles to go. I'm really talking myself out of that rep before it started, so I don't know how I'm going to feel like until I get to the end of the recovery and start again on the next rep. So let's see how my legs are. I mean, 2 miles is a shorter rep, should be able to push a little bit harder on that. So that is the last rep done now. So going on to the last rep, so did that last one in about 6:40s pace for each of the 2 miles. So 1 mile jog in between, and we've just got the last 2 mile reps to go. You can tell I'm getting a little bit tired now. I'm just glad to get this one done. Oh, so that's the session done now. I'm just on the cool down, so about half a mile to go before I get back to the car. And first thoughts was I got a bit tough towards the end. The first 7 miles felt really good, but then locking into I finished 14 miles of that at marathon pace, which is pretty similar to the pace I was running Workshop half marathon at last weekend. So really big volume in there and a good session. So thoughts on that session was a probably the best session I've done so far in terms of my long run. So probably the best one I'd done up until now was at half marathon at Worksop, where I did 13 miles at just over half marathon pace on quite an undulating course. But today I've gone out there and I've done, within a 20-mile run, I've done 14 miles of work that's above marathon pace. So that's really quite a high volume. Getting my legs and my body used to working at that marathon pace. And I felt really good up until probably the last 2-mile effort, really. It's where I was starting to flag a little bit. But it's nothing I'm too concerned about. I know that I've still got 2 or 3 of these type of runs in me. I've done really now a couple of 20-milers. I know that I get 3 or 4 of these under my belt in the marathon block, but it's going to give me a really good chance to get a good time that I want in my goal marathon. So I had chance to practice taking on fueling as well. So although I'll probably go with the OTE 40-gram super gels within the race, I bought some precision hydration pouches to try. So I've gone for a big pouch of 2 of the 90-gram pouches. So really was just an exercise of getting as much down me as I could. And I got through the first pouch within about 9 or 10 miles, and then got through the second pouch within the last half of that run. So to get 180 grams of carbs in within a 2-hour run was quite a lot, really. Shows that my stomach can handle it. I can handle it running at that pace, because I took all of my gels whilst I was doing an on-rep, which is really specific to doing the marathon. So I've practiced really for fueling and running at marathon pace, and got some good training benefit out of that. And it's probably my best week of training if I look at it as a whole. In terms of total mileage, it's around 67 miles in total, which is my highest mileage of the block so far, 5 weeks in. And it's also, in terms of intensity as well, I did a good session Tuesday with a 12 by 600s. So good little session there. I did a progression on the treadmill on Thursday morning. And then I also did, I'd say, a tempo effort at Parkrun on the Saturday, and going into today, the big session within the long run. So really, I've done about 3 or 4 sessions this week, which is really quite intense on only running sort of 7 or 8 times this week. Yeah, a lot of that has been done at quite a high intensity. So really high volume training week, and I've gained a lot from it. And looking forward, there's just 5 weeks to go now until Valencia. So that really means to me I've got 4 opportunities for long runs. And with the last of these long runs a week before the marathon, probably going to be tapered down a little bit shorter. I've really only got 3 chances. So I've got a Derby 10-mile effort in a couple of weeks' time. So I've got 2 long runs around this that I can get something similar session-wise to what I did today, and that'll really put me in good stead going into the marathon. So if I can go in with 4 or 5 20-milers, good sessions under my belt on the long runs, that will really make the difference going into Valencia. As always, thanks for watching. If you did like this video and you're liking the series, do hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified with when the next video launches every week leading up to Valencia. So with 5 weeks to go now, I'll see you in next week's video.